Okay. Hey, happy Friday to everyone. Hope everyone's having, or maybe by the time I get this uploaded, had a good Friday. I am just getting home from work, so I don't really have time for much right now, but I still wanted to, one second, he did not, right, try that again. So, just getting off of work, don't really have much time today, but I just want to give you something. So we're gonna call this a 5-Minute Friday and pretend like I did this on purpose. So I do have a package that I have in front of me that just came in that I'm going to unbox on camera. But while I do that, I'm going to just speak a little bit about a topic that's kind of been on my mind. I was wondering, I kind of wanted to pose a question to anybody watching this, like, you know, basically asking the question of what is your favorite focal length and why? I know it's kind of an odd question to be asking, like in some regards, because of one focal length compared to another, it's just a different tool, a different utensil. It's like asking, you know, do you prefer a spoon or fork? And, you know, depending on the job, one of them is probably better for any given application. At the same time, some people might prefer sports. So I thought it was an interesting question to think about nonetheless. And for me, what I would have told you probably within the past, I would say within the past 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, I probably would have told you my favorite focal length was the 28mm full frame equivalent, of course, field of view. And I think for a few reasons, you know, at the time that was true. My first experience shooting 28mm would have been the 18mm f2 Fujifilm lens, which I've already reviewed on this channel. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out. But it was a new focal length to me. I had shot something wider, wasn't really a fan of it. Of course, I shot things that are tighter and knew those focal lengths well, particularly like your 50 and even your 35 at the time. So 28 was a little bit something of a fresh breath of air for me. It gave me a different perspective on things that was wide but not too wide that made me uncomfortable using it. So at the time, within the past 3 or 4 years, that probably would have been my answer. But there's something interesting that happened recently where, you know, when I picked up this Sony camera, this A7C, I started using this 35mm 1.8 lens that I got with it. And even before that, actually, I'll back up one step. When I was shooting with the Leica M240, I used this little cheap 35mm f2. It was interesting between these two lenses is I find myself reaching for them a lot more often than not if I'm just taking one camera, one lens. And I know that's nothing new, right? 35mm is a pretty standard focal length, standard in the way that a lot of people use and like this focal length for a myriad of different applications, street, you know, just documentary, everyday life. A lot of people like to use 35mm lens. I've never really like leaned too heavily towards it, even though I've used the X100, a few of the X100 series bodies, and I've also owned a Sony RX1, but it never has been my favorite. It's definitely a good general purpose all-around lens, but it was never my favorite. But I'm starting to think it might be my favorite, and here's why I think that my opinion on that might be changing. I think to demonstrate that, let me grab a piece of paper if I can. Gotta undo this now. Bear with me. Should do. Pretend like you didn't even see this. Cutting directly to the chase. The reason why I think it might be becoming my favorite focal length is not only because I reach for one of these two lenses fairly often, but it's also because it has to do with what I have in this box, and I'll get to that in a second. But just discussing quickly these two lenses that I previously mentioned, the 35mm f1.8 from Sony and this 7 Artisans 35mm f2 M-mount lens. I like both of these lenses a lot for very different reasons though. And I will attempt to demonstrate that here with some visuals. So bear with me. So let's start with the 35mm f2 because I started shooting that first. So this lens, you know, it's light, small. The quality is decently sharp. It's nothing to write home about, but it is definitely more than serviceable. And it's also great at zone focusing. Right? Let's draw a circle like this. Put that lens in that box. Let's just start there. Okay? So those are some of the reasons. Put fun too. Some of the reasons why I like this 35mm f2 and why I find myself reaching for it more often than I thought I would actually. And I even brought it places that I wouldn't normally bring a manual focus lens because I am very much so, you know, an autofocus type of guy. But this lens is very easy to focus and it's just fun to use. So I dealt with that, you know, compromise in my eyes in order to bring that along because of the size and weight. Now, the 35mm f1.8 from Sony, okay? Okay, this lens is sharp. Just quality all the way around, I think is good. From, you know, your bokeh, sharpness, the autofocus, the fact that it has it first, and then even how fast autofocus is. Autofocus in video is great. What else? Of course, the light gathering, right? f1.8, things that make a 35mm f1.8 good. That's why I like this. It's also not too big, right? Size is good. It's not as small and fun to use as this one, but it is small enough when compared to something like the 35mm GM lens or one of Sigma's offerings. So this lens I do very much like so far, and this lens I like as well. So that would show you that I have two 35mm lenses currently, right? Which begs the question, what's in the box? So let me grab something to open that up with, and I'll tell you. Let's see what's in the box. Maybe some of you will guess what's in here. Maybe not. This is not the best tool to use to open the box, but we're gonna make it work. Okay. What if there's nothing in here and I got scammed? That'd be great. So, as much as I've alluded to, maybe you can tell on camera from the size, maybe not, but what we have here is essentially what I would say goes right in the middle, in some cases, of this Venn diagram that we've constructed here, right? And if that's any indication at all, what I have here is the Sony Zeiss 35mm f2.8 lens, which now makes that my third 35mm lens that I currently own, which is kind of stupid, right? Like, I don't suggest anyone do this, but why I think that's interesting and why I think maybe I bought this, I don't know why I bought it. I've had this lens before. It was actually one of the first Sony lenses I owned, along with the Zeiss 55mm f1.8 that is filming this right now. And I did enjoy this lens a lot. It got a lot of flack at the time of release because it was very expensive and not very fast, and one of only 2 primes available for Sony at launch. But I really enjoyed the autofocus of this lens. I liked the sharpness and performance. I actually enjoyed the bokeh too for an f2.8 lens, which, you know, it's not a sexy combination here when you think about it on paper. However, just looking at the size here on camera, these are pretty similar, right? Now this is where you might have that intersection of light, small, fun, right? Along with the convenience of it being sharp, quality in my opinion, and we'll test this copy and see if it's any good or not. AF and speed, and even better size than that one, right? So I think there might be a time and place where any of these may be appropriate. This one in particular is just fun when if I plan on doing some kind of street shooting or zone focusing, any kind of shooting that involves zone focusing and all, I probably reach for this. I know I'm not gonna get the best quality out of this. I know it's not gonna be the sharpest pictures I've ever taken, the best, you know, anything really, but it's fun to use and it's super easy to zone focus and know where you're at, right, using a lens like this. Because of obviously the markings on the lens barrel and the fact that it's a real, you know, physically coupled focusing lens and not focused by wire like either of these 2 lenses. So I'm running out of battery life here, so we're going to try to hurry this up, and this is definitely way over 5 minutes now. We are encroaching I don't know where we at, 11 minutes or so, I have no idea. 15 minutes, gosh. So anyways, as you can see here, right, with the points that I've kind of starred on both sides, this lens kind of marries some of the attributes of both of these. The only downside being that it's slower than both of them from an aperture standpoint. So really it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, to compare these and figure out, you know, do I really need to keep all 3? I mean, I probably will, because this and this, I think, you know, from an autofocus perspective, even both have their place in either my bag or, you know, on the body when I bring it with me. And this one here, it just wouldn't fetch me enough on the used market to even make it worth selling, I don't think. And it's too fun using. And so I don't think I would trade that fun and the convenience of zone focusing on it for the money I'd get for it. It wouldn't be worth it to me. So I probably end up keeping all 3, but this will be kind of a demo or audition of all 3 of these to see if this little tiny, super lightweight, I mean, this is the lightest lens I have on the table here. If the super lightweight lens can kind of give me some of the good qualities of both of these very different lenses and marry them into one focal length lens. That will be interesting, at least to me. Maybe you'll find it interesting too, and maybe I'll do some kind of conclusion after I test and play around with this and have some final thoughts. But in any event, I just wanted to share something with you since I didn't really have any other ideas for, you know, making any content this week. I saw this package when I got home. It was supposed to be delivered tomorrow, but I got it today. So I figured, hey, why don't I unbox it and talk about why I bought it and why I think it might have a place in my kit. By the way, you know, talking about the downsides for this lens, and you saw when I unboxed it, there's no box here. I usually don't like to buy used lenses or cameras without a box because it just makes it that much easier to sell afterwards. And I don't know, I'm just weird like that. I like having the boxes. But this one, it was just too good of a deal to pass up. I got this for $280 shipped. And if you know how much this lens retailed for at launch and how much it sells for now brand new, I think it retailed for $800 or so. Right now sells for brand new at $500, and you can find used copies on your, you know, big brand used dealers for like $400, $450, which is kind of crazy to me. All the way down to you know, $300 some odd dollars. So $280 for this out the door to me seemed like a steal that was it was worth gambling on. So hopefully that paid off. It looks to be in pretty good condition right now. We'll see. Other than that, I don't know what kind of video I'll put out next week or in the coming days. So if you have any ideas or thoughts on what you want to see, let me know. Some options on the table as far as gear reviews go when I get back to that would be, I mean, I can talk about the Ricoh GR3, especially in the wake of the GR3X being announced, which is a camera I'm very interested in. But I've had the GR3 for quite some time, and it's been through some stuff, and I have some thoughts on this camera. It's one of my favorite cameras. It's usually always on me, and honestly, this camera is the reason why I don't own a 28mm lens at all. So I have that. I could talk about, you know, any of these lenses. I could talk about the 85mm f1.8. That'll be a while because I've never used this lens before. So that Sony 85 1.8. I do have the Tamron 70 to 180 lens, which I've been using quite a bit lately. I have some samples I could probably share with that and some thoughts. I also have the Sony Zeiss 55mm 1.8 that we're filming this on right now. And what else? I also have, last but not least, I think I have the Tamron 17 to 28 f2.8, which is what I filmed my last video on, if I'm not mistaken. So I have things like that. I have some accessories for the A7C I could talk about. You know, just random odds, ends, and bits. And if you have any ideas for content that you might want to see, let me know. You know, any of, especially if you're a subscriber, because I have no idea why anyone would subscribe to me. I don't talk about anything. But in case you are and you have some ideas, let me know. And you know, we can do that. I can try my best to get you that content you want to see. But other than that, I'm just more interested in just, you know, having a dialogue, having a discussion about these things, these tools we use to either document our daily lives or do work, or just if it's a hobby for you, that's cool too. So other than that, appreciate you taking the time. Peace.